A juicy one for you today. We're going to be talking about pirating. And not the yaha, there she blows, fun kind of pirating either. We're going to be talking about pirating Games Workshop products and how it's handled in store. I came across this when I was working at Games Workshop a fair few times. One thing that I really preferred about working in a local ma and pop style hobby store was being able to turn a blind eye to pirated products. So somebody came in with a model they clearly got from a 3D printer, or a model that they've gotten from Etsy or wherever. I was able to just go, yeah, that counts as whatever, that's fine. You know, somebody came into the store actually with a custom made Abaddon or the spoiler. This is the before Abaddon had been redone by Games Workshop. And here we came in, and it was this big model, Gilliman sized almost, and it was gorgeous. And he'd gotten it from an online retailer that specialised in 3D printing high resin sculpted models, high detail, and it was great. Like, it was on the tabletop, it looked amazing, and it was filling a void that Games Workshop wasn't doing themselves. You have to forgive me, I've just finished recording the Dark Angels video, so I'm going to be a little bit hoarse. So I'm going to take a quick swig of tea, as I always do in the Games Workshop videos, because I'm about to rant a little bit. Once again, it's green tea, not Yorkshire. Ugh. Anyway, that is my opinion on pirating, though. In general, please, I'm going to put this disclaimer out there. Sorry, my brain went all fuzzled then. If you walk into a Games Workshop and you like the manager who works there, please don't come in with pirated models. Please don't come in with models that you've 3D printed out. Please don't come in with models that count as something else. Because at that moment in time, you're making that manager's job that much harder. Because he's going to have to come over to you in a nasty situation and say, look, man, you know, I can't have that in the store. You can't buy it here. That's the rule. You know, if I can't sell it either here or at the computer there, you can't play with it in store. You know, that's generally the rule in all Games Workshops, and this did happen to me at the Games Workshop. This wasn't the Titan guy. This is someone who came in with a Mastodon, and this Mastodon was clearly not Forge World. Now, number one, you're not really allowed to play with Forge World things in store, and as I've covered before, Forge World in store is not allowed to be played for the rule of, if you can't buy it at my computer, because I can't buy Forge World stuff at my computer in store, if you can't buy it at my computer or in the store, you're not allowed to play with it in store. And that rule is generally made to make sure that, one, we're attracting the right kind of customers into a Games Workshop store, which is meant to be for mainly introductions and people getting into the hobby. And number two is to make sure that any games that take place in the store and any sort of excitement that is brought up in the store can immediately lead to a sale. If you bring in a Forge World product into my store, and I'm a Games Workshop manager, and you plonk it down, and say a kid there's going, oh, I want that for Christmas. Manager, can you get me this for? Can you make a note to get this for me for Christmas when my mum comes in? I have to say no. I have to say no because it's Forge World, and I can't buy Forge World in the store. Not even on the computer, right? I don't have access to it. So it's not something that can directly lead to a sale. That's a rule I completely get, and I'm behind. I'm behind that rule. That's fine. The other part of that rule, I'm also behind, and that is, Forge World products are by the main, you know, Horus Heresy models, Mom standing, but by the main, Primarchs, Super Heavies, things like that, are far more powerful than things that you would find normally in Warhammer 40,000. Which is why I think Warhammer 40,000 changed in the way that it did, is to make sure that people can't come in with Forge World things from Horus Heresy and play them in Warhammer 40,000 anymore, because obviously the rules are quite different. That's one of the reasons why I think the rules actually changed the way that they did. So, going off on one again, this person came to my store with a Mastodon that was clearly, one, it would have been Forge World if it was from Forge World, and number two, it clearly was not a Games Workshop product. It was something that was 3D printed. I could still see the mold lines, I could still see the fade lines on this model, because the Mastodon has a lot of flat parts to it, where if it's been 3D printed, you will get these really small line marks that you need to be very, very careful about either sanding off or just rubbing off, essentially, with a rubbing off, but rubbing it off with a piece of like a file or something, but really, 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 really gentle. This person had just literally 3D printed this thing off, painted it, you know, undercoated it, and brought it in, hoping that because it was undercoated black that I wouldn't notice. I did notice. I went over there and I said, "Look, listen, dude, you know, this is not a Games Workshop product. You can't use it in the store." And he huffed. Ugh. Actually, I got this on Forge World, and I just looked around, like, you know, imperious, like, yeah, you know, I went and bought something off Forge World. Now you've really put me in a shitty spot, because now I have to call you out in front of everybody and say, no, you didn't. That's not a Forge World product. I know the Forge World product. Let me just get it up on my phone. And I got the Mastodon up on my phone. I said, look, that's the Mastodon from Forge World. That's not what this model is. You can see that there are clear differences. It looks around about the same if you squint, I know, but there are clear differences. One, I'm not allowed to allow Forge World in the store because I can't sell it. Number two, you're bringing something in that is basically something that you've either made at home or as a toy from somewhere else that you can't proxy in store. You can't do that, right? And he said, well, this is ridiculous. Like, I've literally paid this amount, you know, how much is Mastodon? Like £80, this Mastodon, and I'm not allowed to play it in store. Like, okay, well, we've covered that. This isn't... and again, now you're forcing me to say that you're a liar. Right? Do you know what I mean? Like, and customers would do this all of the time. I don't know if anyone else has worked in retail, but customers do this all the time. They try and put you in a position. Now, troubled customers is what I mean. I don't mean that. What I mean is troubled customers. Not all people come in. But troubled customers will come in all the time, and they'll try and put you in a position where you've got to either back off or call their bluff. You either say, fair enough, play with it, and look like an idiot, and lose all authority in the store, or you call their bluff. And I would always call their bluff. I literally said, mate, I've just given you proof that that is not a Games Workshop model, and it's not a Forge World model, but you said you bought it at Forge World. I tell you what, though, mate, if you bought that off eBay, I can get you a note from Forge World with a picture of this model saying that it's not a Forge World model, so you can get your money back. If you got it from eBay, and they told you it's Forge World. You know? Just laying it out there, trying to be reasonable, right? Just try and be reasonable. And if you're looking to apply at Games Workshop, this is the one main thing you're going to have to do with people who don't want to be told. Always find a way to help them, right? Come at it from an angle of, I want to help you out, because I'm assuming you're telling the truth. But I'm telling you now, that's not a Forge World model, right? Right? I'm not saying you're lying to get influence, or you're lying to get, you know, to measure your dick, which is basically what he was doing. But, like, you know, I'm now giving you an out here. If he said at this point, hey man, yeah, cool, are you sure it's not Forge World? Or if you are sure, then please do that, because then I can go to my guy who I bought it from and say to him, it's not Forge World, blah, blah, blah. Cool. Would have ended there, right? And I would have been, yeah, cool. And I would have been, do you know what? If he'd have done that to me, and I always did this, and I know he shouldn't, I would have said, for now, for this one battle, play with it, but from now on, that's not allowed in the store. But thank you for... But I'll come over and take a photograph of it in a minute, and we'll get that sorted out for you, right? Cool. Brilliant. Done. Because I know the chances of somebody coming in from head office and looking over and seeing this one model there going, brr, when it's, you know, when it's undercoated and it's in the middle of a battle is low, you know? Still would not take the chance. But if somebody's okay with me, I'm okay with you. But this person didn't do that. He stuck to his guns and said, this is... You started swearing. This is fucking ridiculous. I bought this from Forge World. This is absolutely unacceptable. And, you know, somebody would come in and literally, all the customers just want to help and say, hey, what's going on? He said, this guy, is what he said, this guy knows that I bought this from Forge World, and he's saying I can't use it in the store because Forge World isn't allowed in the store. And then he starts telling me that it's not even from Forge World. So what am I supposed to do? I'm like, dude, you're just confusing the issue. You're trying to confuse people. Stop. Right? I came over and I told you that you're not, one, you're not allowed to play with Forge World models in the store, and two, you're definitely not allowed to play with things that aren't even Games Workshop products in store. This is not a Games Workshop product, is what I said. This is not a Games Workshop product. You got it from somewhere else. and it's not one of our products. You can't play with it in store. I may as well let you take off your shoe and use it as a Land Raider, you know? Like, that's not what's allowed in store, right? And at this point, I said, look, I'm going to have to ask you to either agree to play without the model and stop causing a scene, or leave the store. Those are my two options right now. That's all you give me, right? So he went red in the face. He took up, and this is what proved to me it wasn't Forge World, because I knew it wasn't anyway, but he took up the quote-unquote Mastodon and slammed it into his carry case. And I thought, if that was a Forge World model, and you were really convinced it was a Forge World model, you wouldn't have done that with it, mate. So he zipped it up and walked out. One of the 5 or 6 really bad interactions that I had as a manager. So my stance on pirating is very complicated. So I wanted to tell you that story first and foremost, because everyone likes a bit of a story from Games Workshop, especially when they're, you know, terrible ones that are, you know, the local nut job being a local nut job. I actually have another story about a window cleaner that I'll get. Actually, no, I'm going to tell that now. I will get into pirating in a minute. I'm going to give you a bonus story. So there's this guy who was a window cleaner on my local high street. And he was walking up and down, and generally he would come in and do the windows in different stores. He would never really touch mine, though, because I would clean my own windows, right? So, anyway, this guy, I'm in the back and I'm sorting out some stock. And I'm not doing a stock take, but I'm doing something else. I'm like looking at different bits of stock, and I knew a guy was coming in for some high elves, so I was getting loads of them out the back, all the old Warhammer high elf boxes, and I walk out and I notice he's just finishing up doing my windows. And I literally cleaned him like 2 days ago. And I'm like, you know. So I go behind the desk and I'm like, oh God, here we go. I go behind the counter. He walks in. Hey man, you know, how's it going? I'm like, yeah, how's it going? You know, he fist bumps me as you do. And he's like, yeah. That's £10, please. I'm like, mate, I hate to tell you this, but I'd never asked you to do my windows. Like, I do my windows. I did them 2 days ago. And he went, well, you didn't do a very good job. That's why I did them. And I was like, mate, no, I didn't ask you to do my windows. So I'm not paying you out of the till. One, I can't pay you out the till. That's not allowed. I pay out petty cash, but I don't have any, right? I've got cash, but I'm not giving you my cash. I never asked you to do my windows. I do my windows, right? And by the way, they were done to a bloody good standard as well. You could eat off them, right? Like, so you know, like, I never asked you to do my windows. And he says, well, normally when I do a job, I get paid for it. Right? Mate, it's only a job if someone asks you to do the job. Like, it's not a job. So anyway, I ended up having to call head office and say, look, this guy won't leave because he's done my windows. He's done my windows. And I called this woman at head office who was a bit of a fox. I have to admit, like, she was very good looking. But she also had the tongue of a fucking demon as well. So, like, she could tear people down, you know, verbally. So I called her up and I said, look, this guy won't leave my store. And, you know, and she was one of the store reps, basically. So if you had a problem, you'd call her. And if she had a problem, she'd call you, sort of a thing. So, you know, I said, look, this guy won't leave my store. He's just here. And he went fuck off, basically. And I explained the situation. Said, look, I never asked him to do my windows. He's turned up to do my windows. And here he is. And, you know, and he won't leave. So anyway, she said, do you know what? I know who this guy is. I said, yeah, really? He said, yeah, the last manager of that store had a problem with him as well. Put him on for me. I went, really? He said, yeah, let's put him on. So he strode over, slammed his stuff down and took the phone. Hello? And he goes, yeah, I want to be paid. And he's like, and I can hear him. I'm just, you know, around, but I'm just checking on other things in the store around him as he's doing this. And all of a sudden he goes, no, that won't be necessary. No, that won't be a problem. Alright, goodbye now, puts the phone down, and he just gets up and walks out. And I'm just like, what the fuck did she say to him? To this day, I have no idea what she said to him. I called her back up later on, and I said, oh, what did you say? And she said, look, I'm really busy right now, but are you coming to the staff workshop, you know, the retail workshop this weekend? I'll tell you then. I said, yeah, cool. So I put the phone down. I met her at the retail workshop. We got really, really drunk, and I forgot to ask her about what she said. But so I said, this day, I don't know what she said. But it was just that one epic moment of him just going, yes, no, that won't be necessary. Okay, goodbye. Put the phone down. Got his bucket and his little mop and just fucked off. But it does link into pirating, right? Because he was trying to get money out of my till. He was trying to, you know, get money out of my till, basically. He knew full well that he wasn't meant to be doing my windows. And that I was never going to pay him for doing my windows, because I do my windows. He's seen me doing it before. So, essentially, that's what pirating is, right? It's a very similar thing to me. If I am in a hobby store, or even a Games Workshop store, here's the two things. If I'm in a hobby store, I don't think you're a dick for pirating, right? If you are, number one, broke, right? Just flat broke, and you really love the game, right? As long as 1 or 2 models in your army are pirated, I don't care, right? If the entire army is pirated, we may as well be playing with My Little Pony figurines at this point, you know? But, like, if 1 or 2 of your models are pirated, if we're in a hobby store that's not Games Workshop store, I don't mind that at all, that's fine. Number 2, and this is the big one. If, like our Abaddon the Despoiler friend, the model Games Workshop produces isn't worth the money they're charging for it because it's 20, 30 years old, and you found one for a similar price that is worth the money that you'd pay for it, and you've bought it, and it's painted to a high standard, I've got no problem with that. That's Games Workshop's own fault for neglecting certain parts of their own fanbase. I have no problem when Abaddon of the Spoiler as an instance had not been updated in so long. Somebody saying, I want Abaddon to lead my forces, but I don't want that Abaddon to lead my forces. What a little dweeb. I'm going to go online, I'm going to buy myself a really cool Abaddon, and I'm going to paint him, it's going to be the centerpiece of my army, and there we go. Cool. Awesome. That's brilliant. That's in a normal hobby store. That's my philosophy, right? Whole armies, no. Don't want to see whole armies pirated, because, you know, then what's the point? We may as well be playing with fucking, you know, My Little Pony figurines or whatever, right? If you're flat broke and you've got an army of 40k and there are 1 or 2 models that you just can't afford, fine. You know, if we're in a hobby store, fine. I don't care. Yeah, fine. I'll even compliment you if it looks really cool, right? Or if there is a model at Games Workshop either don't produce but have rules for, or haven't updated in 15, 20 years, 30 years even, no problem, right? If we're in a hobby store, do it, man. You do you, right? Now, I will now get into 3D printing before I move into what's acceptable at Games Workshop, right? So in 3D printing, if the time ever comes that 3D printing can replace entire armies, I think we're even there now, really. If the time ever comes where that's common, where that's super, super common, you will see Games Workshop change their mode of business. There may even be a price drop. Quote, you know, absolute, you know, I know, shock horror. There may even be a price drop. As long as if 3D printers are able to print entire armies to a good standard, as long as Games Workshop respond in kind and say, right, we're not having this, prices are getting lowered, and we're going to mass produce our own armies. So everyone's getting new models, and everyone's getting this, and everyone's getting that. If they earn their right to be at the top of the food chain, even though you've got your little 3D printer there, then I would stick to the same stance. 1 or 2 models 3D printed, fine. Entire armies, no. No thank you, right? I don't want to play against that. I may as well play against somebody's shoe at this point, right? If Games Workshop do what I think they might, and that's ignore the problem until it becomes too much of a problem, if they say, meh, 3D printing, who cares? They're not our models, and our models are so much better, right? If they come at it with that kind of attitude, then 3D print away, my friend. And you can have your entire army and I'll still play you. Because Games Workshop aren't worth the fucking aggro at this point, right? Cool. There's that boxed off. There's 3D printing boxed off and over there. Right. So, let me take a drink of my tea before I go into what's acceptable at Games Workshop in terms of 3D printing. Right. At Games Workshop, officially, nothing. Officially, if I see something 3D printed at Games Workshop, I think to myself, what a dick. The reason why I think what a dick is because you're putting the manager in an impossible position. He's going to have to come over and tell you not to use what you're using. And if you willfully go into somebody's job to do something like that, then you're a bit of a dick. You know? My phone's going off. 1 second. I'm going to just I can't control this, obviously. I mean, when I get an editor, I will be able to, but... There you go. Yeah, you're a bit of a dick. If you go into somebody's place of work and you say, hey, you know, I'm gonna fuck up your day. I'm gonna make your day harder. Willfully, knowingly. Then, yeah, you're a bit of a dick, dude. Like, don't do that. Like, if you know that this person's going to get in trouble, if you come in there with a full army of 3D printed models and you want to play in a Games Workshop store, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Because you know you're putting him in a shitty spot. Go to any other store where they'd be fine with you doing that. You know? And even then, if I was running a hobby store, and I know people who do run hobby stores, if somebody did that in their store, they'd be like, dude, can you buy that here? No? Then fucking don't use it then. You know? You're taking the piss. Full army of 3D printed models, right? But even coming in with 1 or 2 models in a Games Workshop store that's 3D printed, you're still doing that. That's like going into a normal hobby store with a full army of 3D printed models, right? Most hobby stores would frown severely upon that because they're like, well, at this point you're using electricity, you're using up my space for paying customers with stuff that you haven't bought in store and you have no intention of ever buying in store, right? So why should I provide my space if that's the case, right? You're not providing... I'm providing you with something, and you're not giving me anything in return. Which is why every single time I play in a normal hobby store, I always buy a pot of glue, or I always buy a pot of paint. Anything. Just to give them a little bit of money. Thank you very much, and I leave, right? So... If you come into Games Workshop... If you come into a Games Workshop store, officially, the rule is... no 3D printed models in store at all. And that's... I can see why, and that's not a problem. For me, I think that's completely fair, right? Games Workshop aren't always the big bad guys in the room, right? Often they are, trust me, and if you watch any of my other videos, you know how I feel about them most of the time. But this is not a rule. If you think this rule is not good, I don't know how you're thinking. I don't know how you think companies exist or get money. There's just no way I can... It's one of the only arguments where I can't see another side to it. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but... like... This person can get sacked. Or at least a warning if they are seen letting these models be played within the store. Number 2, you're taking away valuable space, and space in the Games Workshop store is very valuable. You're taking away valuable hobby space from people who actually pay into the hobby and keep it going. Right? Now... on the flip side of that, if I'm a Games Workshop manager and somebody comes in with one 3D printed model that isn't very big, or they come in with things that they 3D printed like parts of their model, like helmets and greaves or pauldrons or a sword or something like that, I'm not going to say anything. Honestly, I had it all the time. I had people coming into my store all the time who would have a model that they got from Etsy or another site, right? Or eBay or whatever. Or somebody who did 3D printing as a business. And their Space Marine would have a really cool Corinthian-style helmet that obviously wasn't Games Workshop. I didn't care, because they had to buy the Space Marine to put that helmet on, right? That's cool by me, dude. And somebody coming in with, like, pauldrons, especially the design pauldrons, that they didn't want to go to Forge World and spend 50 quid on a load on just fucking pauldrons, so they went and printed some off online that looked just as good. Fine, mate. Go ham, dude. You do whatever you want to do. If you want to convert your models with third-party parts, go for it, dude. Because at least then I can say to somebody coming into my store, why are they playing with 3D printed models? Ah, they're not. That's a normal Space Marine with a 3D printed sword that actually looks quite cool, right? So that they literally put money into the till to get to use that model, right? That I've got no issue with that whatsoever. One single small model being 3D printed, I would have issue with it, but I wouldn't call it out. Because at that stage, we're now nitpicking, and I don't want to be going over to every single table when somebody comes in with something like this. When we start seeing squads, that's when I would call it. When we start seeing super heavies, that's when I would call it. When we start seeing things that are really noticeably not Games Workshop products, that's when I would call it and say, look, you can't play with that, that's ridiculous, right? So that's how I would approach it in a store, in a Games Workshop store. And as far as I know, that's how most Games Workshop managers approach it. You know, they don't mind you using third-party parts, a lot of them. Just don't take the piss, essentially. Don't be an arsehole. Don't take the piss. And that's my stance on pirating. And that's Games Workshop's stance on pirating basically. Games Workshop itself has a zero tolerance approach to people using non-Citadel miniatures in their stores. But essentially, aside from that, that's all I've got to say on pirating. What do you guys think going on about pirating? Have you ever seen anything that's really egregious in a store that you didn't like? Have you ever seen anything that's really annoyed you in a store and somebody's been pirating? Have you ever pirated something in a store and had somebody call you out for it? Do you have a different opinion to me? Put it down in the comments below. Just because I disagree with it and I can't really see the other side because I've tried, doesn't mean I don't want to listen to it. Whack it in the comments below. But for now, thank you very, very, very much for watching. I love you all, and I'll speak to you next time.